Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. I am Tom, and as always, I am joined by the wonderful Ria. How are you doing today, Ria?
I am doing fantastic, Tom. Honestly, I am so excited for today's topic because I think this is the one thing that keeps students awake at night. It is that feeling of panic when you hear native speakers talking and it just sounds like a blur of noise.
Oh, absolutely. It is the number one complaint I hear. Students tell me all the time, Tom, I can read English perfectly. I know my grammar rules, I can write emails, but the moment I turn on a movie without subtitles, or I try to eavesdrop on a conversation in a coffee shop, I am lost. I feel like I learned a completely different language.
Yes, exactly. It's like there's classroom English, which is nice and slow and polite. Hello, how are you? I am fine, thank you. And then there's real English, which is fast and messy and emotional. And I think that gap between the classroom and reality is where so many people lose their confidence. They feel like they aren't smart enough, but that is not true at all.
You are so right. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with how our ears are trained. We are trained to listen for perfect, separated words. But real human beings do not speak in separated words. We speak in streams of sound. And today, we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about how to actually understand fast English, not by studying more grammar books, but by changing how you listen.
I love that, changing how you listen. Because when you think about it, speed is actually an illusion. Do you know what I mean by that?
I think I do, but tell me more. What do you mean speed is an illusion?
Well, often when we think someone is speaking fast, they aren't actually speaking more words per minute than we are used to. They're just connecting the words together so tightly that the brain cannot find the spaces between them. If I say the sentence, "What are you going to do?" clearly you hear every word. But in real life, I say, "What you gonna do?"
What you gonna do? Exactly. It sounds like one long word. And if you're looking for what and are and you miss the whole message because your brain is stuck searching for the first word while the speaker is already finishing the sentence.
That is the trap. You get stuck on the first word you didn't catch, and then you panic. And the moment you panic, your ears shut down. You stop listening and you start thinking. You start thinking, oh no, I don't understand. I'm failing. This is too hard. And while you are having that internal crisis, the conversation has moved on without you.
That is such a crucial point, Ria. The psychology of listening. Anxiety is the enemy of understanding. I remember when I was learning a second language, if I was relaxed and having a drink with friends, I understood almost everything. But if I was on the phone with a bank or a doctor and I was nervous, suddenly I couldn't understand anything. The speed didn't change, but my stress level did.
It is the fight or flight response. When we're stressed, our brain focuses on survival, not on decoding complex language patterns. So, rule number one for understanding fast English is actually to relax. It sounds counterintuitive, but you have to let the words wash over you rather than trying to grab every single one.
Let the words wash over you. I like that image. It's like being in the ocean. If you fight the waves, you get tired. If you float, you're okay. But let's get into the mechanics of it too. Why does English sound so fast? We mentioned linking, but there's also this concept of disappearing sounds. We call it elision.
Oh, elision is a huge one. It's basically the laziness of the human mouth. And I say laziness with love. We all want to save energy. So in English, if a sound is difficult to make because of the sound coming next to it, we just drop it. We delete it.
Can you give us an example of that? Something our listeners might hear every day?
Sure. Think about the word next. It ends with a T sound, next. And the word door, next door. If I say them carefully, I pronounce the T. But in fast English, I say next door. The T is gone completely. I live next door.
That is a perfect example. Or sandwich. Most native speakers do not say the D in sandwich. They say sandwich. Can I get a ham sandwich? If you're listening for that hard D sound, you won't hear it. And your brain does a little stutter step. It pauses to figure it out, and those micro pauses add up.
And then there is the famous schwa sound, the lazy vowel. This is probably the secret key to English rhythm. In many languages, every vowel is pronounced clearly. A is A, E is E. But in English, we only stress the important words. The unimportant words get squashed into this tiny sound.
The schwa is the ghost of the English language. It is everywhere. Take the word banana. We don't say ba-na-na. We say ba-na-na. The first and last A become schwas. They are weak. Now apply that to a sentence. I can go to the store.
Right. In a textbook, that is, I can go to the store. But in reality, I can go to the store. The word can becomes kn. The word to becomes t. They are barely there. They are just little bridges between the important words, which are go and store.
That is the secret right there. English is a stress-timed language. If you want to understand fast English, stop listening for the grammar words. Stop listening for to, for, at, the, a, an. Listen for the nouns and the verbs, the big words. If you hear go, store, you know what the sentence means. You don't need the little connecting words to understand the story.
I tell my students this all the time. Imagine you are listening to a radio signal with a little bit of static. You can still understand the song even if some notes are fuzzy. Listening to fast English is about focusing on the melody, the stressed words. The unstressed words are just the background beat. Don't obsess over them.
But Ria, how do people practice this? Because it's one thing to know it intellectually, but it's another thing to actually train your ear. Do you have a favorite technique for this?
I do. And it is something that anyone can do at home for free. It is called shadowing. I'm sure you have talked about this before, Tom, but for me, it is the holy grail of fluency.
I love shadowing. But for those who are new to the channel or new to the concept, walk us through it. How do you do it properly?
Okay, so here's the deal. You find a piece of audio. It could be this podcast, actually, or a short clip from a YouTube video. It should be short, maybe 30 seconds. You listen to it once to understand the meaning. Then you listen to it again, but this time you try to speak exactly at the same time as the speaker.
Like a karaoke song?
Exactly like karaoke. You're not waiting for them to finish and then repeating. You are speaking simultaneously. You try to match their speed, their pauses, their emotion, and their melody. If they go high, you go high. If they speed up, you speed up.
And what does this do for your brain? Why does this help with understanding?
It forces you to physically feel the connections between words. When you try to match the speed of a native speaker, you realize that you have to link the words. You realize you have to drop that T in next door, otherwise you will fall behind. Your mouth teaches your ears what to listen for.
That is profound. Your mouth teaches your ears. By physically making the sounds of fast English, you demystify them. It stops being noise and starts being a pattern that you recognize.
Yes, and it helps you predict what is coming next. That is another huge part of understanding fast speech, prediction. Native speakers are constantly predicting the end of the sentence before it arrives.
That is true. If I say, I am going to the grocery, your brain already screams store or shop before I say it. You're not really listening to the word store, you're just confirming your prediction.
But language learners are often too busy decoding the grammar to predict. They're stuck analyzing am going to as the future continuous tense, and by the time they figure that out, I've already bought my apples and left the store.
So we need to shift from analyzing to flowing. I think another big issue is the variety of accents. You might get used to an American accent, but then you hear a British person, or an Australian, or someone from Scotland, and suddenly the speed feels different because the rhythm is different.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the first time I went to Scotland, I thought my English was perfect. Then I ordered a coffee, and the barista spoke to me, and I just stared at him. I had to ask him to repeat himself 3 times. I felt so embarrassed.
And you're a professional English teacher. That just shows that even advanced speakers struggle with new rhythms. It's not about knowing the language, it's about tuning in to that specific frequency.
Exactly. It took me a day or two, and then suddenly my ears adjusted. It's like when you walk into a dark room. At first, you can't see anything. It's pitch black. But if you wait, your eyes adjust and you can see the shapes. Listening is the same. You have to give yourself that adjustment period without beating yourself up.
Without beating yourself up. I want to highlight that. We are so hard on ourselves. We treat every misunderstanding as a failure. But really asking, what? Or, sorry, could you say that again? Is a completely natural part of communication. Native speakers do it to each other all the time.
We really do. I ask my husband to repeat himself probably 5 times a day, usually because he is mumbling from the other room, but still, I don't think, oh no, my English is failing. I just think, I didn't catch that. Learners need to adopt that same attitude. I didn't catch that is a neutral fact, not a judgment on your ability.
So let's talk about specific types of content. If someone wants to practice listening to fast English, should they start with the news or movies or podcasts? What do you think is best?
That is a great question. Honestly, I think the news is actually too easy in some ways and too hard in others. It is too scripted. News anchors speak clearly, but they use very formal, complex vocabulary. It doesn't sound like real people talking.
I agree. Nobody talks like a news anchor at a dinner party.
Right. Movies are better, but movies have a lot of visual distractions. You are looking at the explosion or the handsome actor, and you stop listening. I think podcasts, audio only, are the best training ground, specifically conversational podcasts like this one, where people are interrupting each other and laughing.
The interruption factor is huge. In textbooks, person A speaks, then stops. Then person B speaks. In real life, we talk over each other. We use filler words like like. Learning to filter out those filler words is a skill in itself.
Ugh, the word like. I think some teenagers use the word like every 3 words. I was like going to the store and it was like totally closed. If you try to translate every like, you will go crazy. You have to learn that in that context, it means nothing. It is just a pause button while their brain thinks of the next part of the story.
It is a pause button. I love that. So when you're listening to fast English, you need to have a mental filter. You filter out the fillers. You filter out the grammar words. And you hunt for the content words. It's an active process. You're a detective hunting for clues.
And you know, Tom, there's another thing that helps. Changing the speed of your audio. Most podcast players and YouTube have speed settings. I actually recommend students listen to things at 0.75 speed first. Just slow it down a tiny bit.
Some people say that's cheating. What do you say to them?
It is absolutely not cheating. It's training wheels. You use training wheels to learn how to balance on a bike. Once you feel the balance, you take them off. Listening at 0.75 speed lets you hear the linking sounds we talked about. You can actually hear how "what are you" becomes "whatcha." Once you hear it slowly, you can recognize it when it's fast.
And then, for the brave students, you can actually go the other way. Listen at 1.25 speed.
Yes, speed training. If you listen to a podcast at 1.25 speed for 5 minutes, it will sound crazy fast. But then, when you switch it back to normal speed, suddenly normal speed feels slow. It feels relaxing. It's a brain hack.
It really works. It's like running with weights on your ankles. When you take the weights off, you feel like you're flying. So if you have a big meeting coming up or an exam, listen to some really fast English right before. Then the real thing will seem manageable.
That is such a good tip. I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the emotional connection to the language. I think sometimes we struggle to understand fast English because we aren't emotionally invested in what is being said. We're just practicing English.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Well, think about gossip. If someone is whispering a juicy secret to you, you lean in. You focus 100%. You want to know the information. Your brain is hyper alert. But if you're listening to a boring audio about the history of paper clips, your brain drifts away. When your focus drifts, you miss the links and then you get lost.
So the advice is to find content that you actually care about. Don't listen to English lessons just to learn English. Listen to a podcast about football or cooking or psychology or true crime, whatever you love in your native language.
Exactly. If you love true crime, listen to English true crime. You will be so desperate to know who the killer is that you will forget you're learning English. You will push through the difficult parts because you need the answer. That desire to understand drives the acquisition of the skill.
It's about motivation. When the why is strong, the how becomes easier. I have students who learned incredible English just because they wanted to understand the lyrics of their favorite band. They would listen to the same song 500 times. That is repetitive listening practice on steroids.
Repetition is the mother of skill. That's the old saying, right? But it is true. You cannot listen to something once and expect to master it. You need to listen to the same fast clip 3, 4, 10 times. The first time you get 20%. The second time, maybe 40%. By the 10th time, you hear every single syllable. And that success builds confidence.
And confidence is the fuel. When you realize, wait, I actually understood that fast sentence, you feel like a superhero, and you want to do it again. It is a positive feedback loop.
I want to share a quick story about a student of mine. Let's call him Marco. Marco was terrified of phone calls. He worked in customer service, and every time the phone rang, he would sweat. He was sure he wouldn't understand the fast complaints of the customers.
That is a high-pressure situation. What did Marco do?
We worked on a few key phrases to control the speed of the conversation. This is a tactic, Tom. You don't just have to be a victim of the speed, you can influence it. He learned to say, firmly and politely, I want to help you, but the connection is a bit bad. Could you speak a little slower so I don't miss any details?
Ah, that is brilliant. Blaming the bad connection or wanting to get the details right. It makes the other person slow down without making Marco look incompetent.
Exactly. It frames it as, I am being careful and professional, not, I am bad at English. And just having that script in his pocket made him less nervous. And because he was less nervous, he actually understood more. And he really had to use the phrase. But knowing he could stop the train if he needed to, that changed everything.
Control. It is about taking back control. You are not just a passive receiver of sound. You are an active participant in the conversation. You have the right to ask for clarity.
You absolutely do. And remember, fast English is often just messy English. Sometimes native speakers trip over their own words. Sometimes we stutter. Sometimes we use the wrong word and correct ourselves. If you don't understand, it might not be your fault. It might be that the speaker is just being unclear.
That is a very liberating thought. We assume native speakers are perfect oracles of the language, but half the time we're just making it up as we go along, mumbling through our coffee.
So true. We are just people trying to connect. And I think that's the bottom line. Language is connection. It isn't a test. If you miss a word but you catch the smile or the tone of voice, you are still communicating.
Let's recap a little bit for our listeners, because we have covered a lot of ground today. We started with the idea that speed is often an illusion caused by linking and schwa sounds.
Right. Words blend together. Get out of here becomes get out of here. You have to train your ear to hear the chunks, not the individual pieces.
And we talked about the emotional side, relaxing, letting the ocean of words wash over you instead of fighting every wave.
And the technique of shadowing, speaking along with the audio to teach your mouth the rhythm, which in turn teaches your ear.
And finally, the importance of interest, listening to things that set your soul on fire so your brain is hungry for the meaning.
It is a journey, Tom. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly understand everything perfectly. It's a slow, steady improvement. But every day you listen, you are getting better, even if you don't feel it.
That is the hard part, trusting the process when you don't see immediate results. It's like going to the gym. You don't see muscles after one workout, but after 6 months, you're a different person.
Exactly. Consistency is key. 5 minutes of focused listening every day is better than a 5-hour marathon once a month. Your brain needs that daily exposure to stay tuned in.
Ria, before we wrap up, I have a question for you. If you could give our listeners one specific challenge for this week, one thing to go out and do, what would it be?
I love a challenge. Okay, here is my challenge. I want you to find a YouTube video, maybe one of ours, or a vlogger you like. Pick a video that is about 5 minutes long. I want you to listen to it normally. Then, I want you to change the speed to 1.25. Listen to it all the way through. It will feel uncomfortable. Then, switch it back to normal speed and listen one last time. Notice how easy it feels. Notice how much more you hear. Just do that once this week. Experience that shift.
That is a fantastic challenge. It proves to your brain that you are capable of more than you think.
And let us know in the comments how it felt. We love hearing your stories. Did it feel like magic? Did it feel like relief?
Yes, please share your experiences. We are a community here. We are all learning together. I am still learning things about language every day, and I am a native speaker.
Me too. Language is infinite. That is the beauty of it. There is always a new slang word, a new expression, a new way of saying things. It keeps us young.
It really does. Well, Ria, thank you so much for your insights today. As always, it is a joy to discuss these things with you. You make the scary parts of English feel much more manageable.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you to everyone listening. You are doing great work. Don't give up. The fact that you are listening to this podcast right now proves that you are dedicated and you are on the right path.
Absolutely. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your own voice. You have so much to say, and the world wants to hear it.
Yes, your voice matters. Don't let the speed of others silence you.
Beautifully said. All right, everyone. That is it for this episode of Real English Voices. We will catch you in the next conversation.
Bye, everyone. Happy listening.
See you soon.